What is our responsibility as an institution and a collective responsibility as an international institution where 3/4 of the Muslims live in Asia? What can we do to contribute at a time when the prejudice against Muslims was going to be very high? So one of the first things we did was to really change our programming. And we created a whole season of understanding Islam, Muslim cultures, programming that could also come to the tenets of Quran, and understanding Afghanistan. And it was very important as an institution because we just came together, all different departments, and we developed this. And we raised the money for it and said, this is how we're going to do it. So at a time when we were reopening the building, where we had all kinds of plans, we had to make sure that we adjusted to this. Collectively, I must say that one of the things right after 9/11 that I felt very proud of was to be an American, a New Yorker. When communities came together, people really helped each other out. And there was a spirit of openness to learn about the rest of the world, to question, to be introspective. How do we move forward? 10 years later, I have to say that on the one hand, I can't believe 10 years have gone. On the other hand, I also feel that 10 years later, the world is a different place. Not just because of 9/11, but because the world is a different place with the rise of Asia. China is a player today unlike anything we could have imagined 15 years ago. India is now become a central player in the global arena. So as a nation and as a community, we need to think more about collaborations among Asians and Americans and others. We need to think much more about how do we learn from each other. And yet, I am afraid that within the United States, there is in fact a very much stronger tendency than there was right after 9/11 to actually put the world at bay. And we must actually figure out that in this interconnected, rapidly changing world, we need to connect, we need to learn from each other, we need to partner. And if we don't do that, we can't go back into our shell because that will be more dangerous. And this is one of the messages that I feel we must take to heart as we contemplate the next decade of the 21st century. One of the mistakes that we made was by thinking of war on terror as if it was like World War II with state actors and state players. And in fact, it wasn't like that. And how we could have managed that differently would have changed the course to some extent. But I'm one of those people who feels that I think it's better to look forward and figure out where we go from here. This is also a very crucial moment when we are beginning to completely draw down from Iraq. We are beginning to draw down from Afghanistan. The challenge for Afghanistan-Pakistan area, I believe, is that we cannot do what we did in early 1990s. If you completely move away, build no civil society infrastructure, you don't help people to actually become more economically sufficient and self-sufficient, you will run the risk of creating pockets all over again. And that's exactly what happened after the Russians left. So we have to make sure that we don't run the risk of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, meaning that once you leave completely, you just don't deal with it at all, because it will come back to haunt you. And as Secretary Clinton said when she was here, we have to have a strategy of engagement so that it's not simply one way or no way, that there's something in between.